Listeners, ladies and gentlemen, friends and colleagues, we're back again and got great pleasure today. Got a gentleman all the way from Kuala Lumpur, and his name is Wu Kam Weng. And just before I announce, well, he's from Pos Aviation Private Limited, but he's a gentleman who's also known as Elephant Man. And for those listening, it's got nothing to do with the fact that we've seen each other in the showers or anything like that, but we will get back to why I've got Elephant Man sitting with me today. So, Wu, can I ask you, why did you agree, or what inspired you, or what led you to accept coming on the podcast?
Hey, hi, Chris. Good morning to you. I think, end of the day, I think we'd just like to share our experiences. Yeah, this is a very interesting industry. It's going through so much change. And to share and to learn from each other, I think that's important in this industry. Yeah.
Okay, no, that's great. That's a very, very, very clear reason as to why, and we're really pleased that you accepted it. Now, Wu, is it right? Is it Wu? Should I call you Wu? Or?
That's fine. If you call me by any other name, you'll never find me.
And we'll get to the reason why, and when we talk about your children, your three children, and about why Wu is always at the beginning. So we'll come to that as well a little bit later on. Now, here at the IGHC. What actual benefits do you get from attending here, Wu?
Well, I think IGAC has always been the platform for airlines and ground handlers to meet and talk about opportunities to provide services to the airlines. And, of course, the suppliers of equipment and systems have also come on board. And over time, they have become an important part of the platform, and they will provide us solutions so that we can provide better services to the airlines, and primarily to meet people.
Okay, yeah, no, that's the networking is a huge advantage. Now, Wu, do you just want to explain to people what do you do? What are you responsible for?
Well, I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Pos Aviation, and we are primarily a ground handler. But over the years, since 2016, we have been, injected as a group into the Post Malaysia, the National Post Office of Malaysia. And we have become the logistic arm, providing integrated logistics solutions to the industry in Malaysia.
Oh, that's a mouthful in itself.
Yeah. So we are not a typical ground handler. We own a logistic company that has prime movers and trailers, and we operate 3 aircraft, 737-400 freighters.
Fantastic. So you can actually offer front ends.
Yeah, the door-to-door services, first mile to last mile delivery.
Okay, fantastic.
It's throughout Malaysia, and we hope to expand in the region anyway. As we move along, I think we will provide more and more solutions, especially with the e-commerce boom in the industry is going through tremendous change. 15% growth year on year, and we see that is the next new frontier, if you like.
Yeah. How do you think the industry in general is aligning themselves or preparing themselves, or even understanding what they should be doing with e-commerce? Because I think most, they haven't got a clue. And I don't mean to be disrespectful,
yes.
But nobody really knows what to do. But they know that it's going to keep coming over the hills. It's going to keep coming over the waterfall. So as long as they're touched by it, they're going to get benefits. But there's no real strategy or tactics or teaming up.
True. That's why I always describe it this way. Yeah. E-commerce is such a big word. It's a buzzword, but no one really knows exactly what it offers. And what I have said before is e-commerce is like a tsunami. It's coming. It's getting bigger.
Yeah.
Either you hunker down and let it pass you by, where you might not get much from it, or you prepare yourself and get ready to tap the enormous potential that is out there. And e-commerce is such a big buzzword, but to me, at the end of the day, I always give this analogy. If you are about 50 miles on the jungle track and coming to your base camp, let's put it that way, in the middle of the jungle, and you forgot your mosquito repellent. So you whip out your phone, you place an online order for mosquito repellent, having it dropped at a particular GPS location to you, and you suddenly remember that your wife has her birthday tomorrow. So you order her favorite meal from the Fat Duck in London, have it delivered to her exactly at 6 o'clock when she's about to have her meal. And that's the true value of e-commerce in the future.
There's a man who can sort things out, eh? Enjoying yourself in the jungle and still being romantic with the wife.
Yeah, exactly.
But you're right, and I think the efficiency and the speed and the variety of why people do things, why they want things, etc. It's an incredible opportunity, and it's only going to get bigger and bigger. And I think tsunami is a very fair analogy of the impact that it can have. But now tell me, if you had a magic wand and you could decide now, how can the industry, apart from the obvious, the Amazons, the Jolly Chicks, Alibaba, etc., if you had a magic wand and you could say to the parties that were in the supply chain, if you did this, if you came together, this is how successful you could be, what would you give them as a little bit of advice?
I think these days, we are very, fragmented as an industry. But I think what we need is a platform, a business service platform, that everyone can link into, and then you can connect across the industry. So a marketplace player can connect to freight forwarders, shippers, other marketplace players, and then on this platform, we all interact and find the best opportunities available. And we need technology. Definitely, innovative solutions are out there. Technology is already available, but we have not been very good in applying technology to the industry.
It's crazy, huh?
Yes. I mean, we are airline industry, but we are very slow in adopting technology.
Yep. And also because it's so difficult to get people to agree to something. That's what I find still so frustrating after all these years.
If you don't mind me saying that, we have a lot of veterans of the industry, but they're not quick enough to change. Yep. I think that's the difficulty.
No, I agree with you. And that's one of the reasons why we're trying to do this and try and encourage people to be a little bit more open and a little bit more collaborative and be free to try something. Yeah. And also bring some young, fresh blood in, different from different industries, different perspective, and embrace it instead of fear it. Yeah. So that's definitely one of the things that we're trying to do. Now, as far as e-commerce, you said it's a huge word and it means so many things, but people in our industry now are understanding different terminology. Like you mentioned, first mile, last mile. You got the returns ratio. What are you finding last mile return ratio in your markets?
Last mile returns, I think, is about 30 to 40%. It varies. But the difficulty is return management. That is actually the biggest obstacle to the supply chain. You can easily deliver, but when it's returned, what do you do with the goods and so on? And that's going to be a major logistical nightmare. I think you need a huge warehouse for return management as well.
Yeah. And those are alarming numbers, huh?
And in different countries, different cultures, different how should I use the word? Practices.
Yeah.
For example, I know in many countries in the US, they'll ship you 3 shoes with 3 sizes, and you decide what you want to use, and you return. If you did that in Asia, in some countries, the 3 shoes will go to 3 relatives, and then after 2 weeks, they'll return it, saying it doesn't fit. So again, I think it's
different practices
and understanding what when you buy online, what are your responsibilities, and what's ethically correct. That's huge.
Yes. And that's what's going to change. And I'm pretty sure there'll be an awful lot of households, individuals that are going to be blacklisted because it's just too much. And that's what people have got to start to realise. Yeah. In Saudi, where I live most of the time, I also work with a company called Nakel Express, and they're doing very, very well, and I'm learning so much with them. It's incredible. But the return rate is about 16, 14, 16, 17%.
Okay.
And it's mainly because the customers are on COD, cash on delivery.
Ah, okay.
So it's a totally different concept when you have to pay for something straight away.
It'll change the habits.
And it's incredible. But it's it's a really good system. But it's very, very interesting. I think most people don't realise what goes on. To get their parcels, their packages on time. But as you said, the target or the challenge now is going to be what to do with all these returns.
Exactly.
Which is a different business.
Yeah, because you don't get anything from the return. You don't get revenue. You have costs.
Yeah.
How do you get someone else to buy that product?
Yep.
So
that's great opportunities as well. So
Correct.
whether it's seconds, whether it's packaging damaging or whatever, there's going to be markets available as well. Correct. And then how do you stop people going for the secondary or the tertiary product instead of the original one, because they know they're going to get it cheaper if they try and shop around other areas?
True. So I think it's an opportunity. Yes, I agree with you.
Big challenges. Now, when you first came into the industry, Wu, what was it that attracted you in, or how did you come in? Did you fall in? Was it because you lived near an airport? You knew somebody?
Well, I was in school, high school as you would call it.
Yeah.
And I attended a talk by Malaysia Airlines engineering director, and I was hooked. I always like to tinker with stuff, with my hands, and I thought, well, I want to be an aircraft engineer. And that's how it all started. I went for applied for the job, applied for the training program, got trained in UK, and got qualified as an engineer.
Yep.
And here I am, changed roles. Engineers always think 1 and zeros. But now I'm in the commercial side, and there's a gray area that I have to learn. It's a totally new skill set I had to learn, Yeah.
And was there anybody that influenced you in your early years, mentors, coaches, anybody you'd like to name, and what did they do for you?
Well, I think the people in the Malaysia Airlines engineering people, there are a couple of senior directors there. Resham Singh is one. These are people who have always believed in working honestly.
Yeah.
And I always believe in working to the best of your abilities. It's okay to make mistakes.
Yes, important message. Yeah.
And you learn from mistakes. So as long as you are happy to learn from mistakes, I think you'll go far.
Yep. No, it's very important. And it's also important for senior managers to not overreact when people try and do something and then they do make a mistake. It's important to encourage them, I think, and that's how you get experience.
Correct. I think I have a lot of young people in my team as well. I have an innovation strategy team. The oldest is 27 years old.
Fantastic.
And they worry. They say, what if I can't do it? I said, as long as you've tried to the best, you haven't got it, you made a mistake, but you learned from it, and now you're better off, then why not?
No,
go for it.
Can you share any mistakes that you've made that were probably one of the biggest learning experiences that you've had, or that you would look back and you think I'm actually glad now I made that mistake because I've done so many other things so well?
I think in the early days as an engineer, you're not very how should I say, you're always thinking 1 and zeros, and on the technical side. You don't look at cost. You don't look at the impact of what you do. And there were some things that I did in the past that were very costly to the company. And from then on, I realized that, you have to look at it overall in every aspect of the way, and to make decisions based on sound, analytical facts and figures, and not just jump and do something impromptu. I was quite impetuous at some time.
Yeah. And your wife, Chow Chi Ling.
Yes.
She's also she's a trainer, isn't she? I understand.
Yeah, she's head of the university program.
Fantastic. And what does she? What do the students learn? How are they involved?
Well, she's actually teaching more of financial.
Okay.
So that's also helped me in my career as well.
That's handy.
Yeah. But if the home minister is also the finance minister, you have a bit of a problem.
Yeah, true enough. True enough. Yeah. Now, if I was to meet Chow Chi Ling and I was to say, how should Wu change if he should change? What do you think she'd say?
Spend more time with the family.
It's the common. I'll tell you, every single person that we've had on who's been in key positions. That's what they all say.
Yeah, and I think I'm quite appreciative and very grateful that she has been able to manage the family while I was away a lot, and she has tackled everything. And without her, I think I wouldn't be where I am today.
Yeah. You just prompted me to say the same. My wife Kathy, she's an absolute diamond, and it's sometimes you take it for granted, don't you? People who
exactly
keep a good home, look
unless
after the kids,
they rap you on the head and say, "Hey guys, I'm here."
Yeah. No, but we should pay attention more, probably. Well, definitely. So, Kathy, thank you very much, and Chi Chi Long, I think the same. Set of thanks goes to you. Now, how did you get the name Elephant Man?
Well, over the years, we had a lot of young people join the organization. Yeah. And they have always said that, there's a piece of information that they're very sure of the facts and figures. But I always tell them, I remember it differently. And we'll have this bet. And if I won, I get a cheesecake and coffee. If I lost, then I'll buy them a lunch or a dinner. Yeah, and it was proven so many times that I was always right. In a big pile of papers, I could always pull out the piece of paper and prove them wrong. Yeah. So they say you have an elephant memory,
and that's it. Yeah,
it's stuck on.
But it looks like you haven't done too bad with all the cheesecakes then.
Pretty good. I'm still winning cheesecakes.
Yeah, but you look well on it. You don't look as if they're settling anywhere. So it must be a very, very good cheesecake. On the elephant, I've just had a granddaughter, and her name's Nellie.
I see.
And now what the family are doing is wherever they're going, they're sort of getting a little elephant or a little memento. So we've got something in common there. So
Nellie is a nice name.
Yeah. No, it's lovely, and she's a lovely little thing. And your children, what do they do?
Well, my eldest, Ken Hong, he's still in Perth, finishing off his PhD.
And what's that in?
He's doing research in liver cancer.
Oh,
and he's playing around with the mice and so on. So they're trying to prove some techniques in identifying how to treat liver cancer, and he's finishing his PhD there.
Oh, blimey! That's what a really, really good. A good cause, and my goodness me, what a clever lad he must be, huh?
Well, he always tells me that it's a very frustrating part of business. I thought we had a frustrating part of business, but he says that you do the research, 6 months into research, and something doesn't work out, you start all over again. So that's the difficult part of doing research. Yeah,
it's also good motivation, huh? That, no matter what happens, you start again and you learn from it and you keep going.
Well, you'll have to learn to be very tenacity to be resilient. In trying to get to the answer. Yeah, it's something that they have to acquire, I think.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And Jin Chen?
Well, Jin Chen is in Kuala Lumpur with us. He was working for DG, one of the telcos, but now he's shifted across to Shopee, which is a marketplace in the e-commerce in Malaysia and Asian region, quite big, and he's doing business intelligence. Because these days, e-commerce players, what they do is, the moment you log on the website, they already track what you're buying. So if you buy a kettle today, tomorrow they'll propose that you buy a toaster and then a microwave.
Yep.
And by doing that, then they can decide what inventory to bring into the country.
Yep.
Because they can't be bringing everything. And most of these things are made in China. So they bring in the products and store it here. And as soon as you order, it's within your door in 3 days. Yeah. So that's how they do it these days.
But it's incredible, isn't it? The way things are, AI and what they can do. I think a lot of people are starting to be a little bit wary and frightened of it as well, though.
Exactly. Well, where does it stop? Where does the line stop? Is privacy or... Well, the other day, what surprised me was my wife said that she didn't have my flight itinerary coming over. So I sent her a picture. It didn't work. So I sent her an email with the actual booking number.
Yep.
And I was in transit in Doha. And she told me, oh, now you're going to gate A11. Because Google told her that my flight departs at A11 at this time.
I know, it's spooky,
and
isn't it? It's spooky,
it's
huh?
like, my God, my wife knows where I'm going. Oh no, that's the last thing I want to know.
Oh, but it is frightening if you take and if you remember years ago all those films, and everybody said, that'll never happen, and you know the Star Trek films.
Yeah, I think Terminator will be a reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Blimey, old Arnie boy, eh? He's got a second coming then.
Yeah.
Now, hobbies yourself. What do you like to do when you've got a bit of free time?
Well, I play badminton actively twice a week.
Oh, brilliant.
So in Malaysia is one of those sports that is quite popular. So twice a week I do that actively. And other than that, most of the time I watch sports, and that's something that gives me a lot of motivation.
Yeah.
People who come back, for example, I watched Masters the other day.
Oh,
Tiger Woods coming back
back.
after his back surgery.
Yeah.
So, that gives you a bit of motivation that no matter what happens to you, whatever you are, however you do, you can still make a comeback.
Yeah, my God, yeah. That's I mean, unexpected, but it was also surprising how he's almost been forgiven.
Well, somehow he
and
has
people
that.
are so pleased.
Yes,
you know?
yes. And he has the biggest cheer.
Yeah.
And you wonder, what happened to the other guys? I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you think about his early days as well, because he wasn't interactive with the crowd. He was quite, he was so focused. He wouldn't even smile. Or
Now he's a very easygoing guy. I think he's learned.
Yeah, everybody does. Everybody does. Now, as far as what's going to happen next, now imagine that we're back to the future. We had the opportunity, and I would say we'll take 3 years off and come back again in 3 years and tell us what you think has changed that you thought would change now looking ahead. What would you like to have seen changed?
Well, I think as we move into technology and the young ones are adopting it very quickly, I think we still need to look back and see how we can put some human element into the technology. I think we are too much into. I've seen families having dinners and everyone looking at their phones.
It's terrible, isn't it?
And you wonder,
That
are
is
they talking
terrible.
to each other or talking to the phone?
Yeah.
And no one's talking.
Yeah.
And then that ability to talk is no longer there. That mastery of language, the art of discussing, having constructive arguments.
Yeah.
So what I used to do it every Friday, I get my family, we go to Coffee Bean. That's how the appreciation for cheesecake and coffee came about. We have this Coffee Bean shop, and we sit in there and no phones, and we just talk. But sometimes we could stare at each other and not sure what to say,
Yeah. So you have to have a quick look on it.
Yeah.
But it's terrible, huh?
Yeah, I think that has to change.
Yeah. And also you have friends or sometimes the kids or whatever, and even if it just buzzes or makes a sound, they're boom, gotta have a look, gotta look at it, gotta look at it.
Yeah, we had a joke once with a fellow colleague in the industry. He says, those days, when I wake up, I look at my wife. Now when I wake up, I look at the phone first. So the wife becomes second nature. So it's like, oh my God, it's true. When it's a reaction. When the phone buzzes, everyone grabs the phone.
Yeah.
Couldn't we just say, okay, I'll have a look in 5 seconds?
Maybe we should initiate a phone-free day. And we should try.
I'm not sure if I could survive that myself.
but we should. Maybe we should.
We
try.
We should try
and have a phone-free day. Maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll do that in the future. Now, coming back to the woos. Okay, the woos and the woes, but the woos in this particular. Can you just explain to people who are maybe not familiar with the surname process and the visa issue?
Well, Wu is the family name, so it carries on through traditions, but is carried by the sons. That's why in China, it's very important to have sons. So the family name carries on.
Yep.
And if we look at my two sons' names, the middle names is similar. It's Jen or Ken, depending whether you use the Romanized version or the Chinese version. And that is decided by my father's brother, who is elder, and he had the first son. So he decided the middle name is Ken or Jen. So I have to carry on that tradition when I have my children. So that's how it works in the Chinese families.
That's great, isn't it?
Yeah.
And with that, and what you were saying with the visas when you travel, you have to make sure that you put the Wu on the end.
Yeah, it's always mindful. You have to read carefully, last name, family name, and decide where the Wu goes. And we have problems at hotels. Okay, they will look for Wing as a family name. And no, it's registered as Wu.
Yeah. Amazing, huh?
Yeah, it's something unique to the... That's why if I go back to China, I can trace my ancestry quite well. Because in every village, there's a book that has traced all the names. So you look for Wu and then you can trace it.
That's amazing, huh? Amazing. And it's also a lovely thing to do.
Yes, yeah. It's something that enables you to see where you've come from and what kind of ancestors you had, and goes back in history.
And how long have you been in Kuala Lumpur?
Well, I've been there all my life. I'm third generation Malaysian, Chinese,
so
born in Malaysia.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always say born, bred, and polluted in Kuala Lumpur.
That's very good. That's very good. I'm going to make a note of that one. Born, bred, and polluted.
I'm a city boy.
Yep. Do you want to explain to people, what it's like living in Kuala Lumpur now, and the way it's built up, the towers?
Yeah, a lot of development has come up, but thankfully in Malaysia we have a good road system. But still, there are too many cars on the road. What could be improved is the public transport system.
Yeah. I mean, that's everywhere, huh?
Yeah. But I mean, where the Twin Towers was, it was a race course, horse racing race course.
Really?
Yes. It was green, lots of trees. And I used to see the jockeys exercising the horses. I lived around that area those days.
A big change now, huh?
But it's a concrete jungle. So that's how cities evolve, Yeah,
no, amazing. Now, music. What's your favorite type of music? And again, if I was to ask Chu Chi Ling, what's the music that makes you get up, want to dance, want to really spin some turns and do your stuff? What would it be?
I think my interest is more into the area of jazz and things like that. So one of my favorite albums is Hands Down by Bob James. And very unique, no lyrics, just music, and it goes through a certain different tempo. I guess those are the areas that I would look at, And I'm not into this pop music, though I was in UK in the 80s, and we had Boy George, Michael, Careless Whispers, and all this.
Yeah.
Wow, that was the revolution. Cyndi Lauper.
Yeah.
And we thought, what kind of music is this? And we came from Malaysia, and we were only about, 19, 20 years old, and we were so impressionable.
Yeah.
Wow, who's this Boy George? Is he, what's he?
What is he?
So that was always the thing we had,
Yeah, I think he's just released another album and done a bit of a tour.
Yeah, but I've not followed him after we left UK, Culture Club.
Yeah, Culture Club. Yeah, no, they had some great hits. That was
it
was good.
Those days that music moved in that direction. It was quite unique, actually.
Yeah, no, it was, yeah. And also the clothes they were wearing, and you had Spandau Ballet.
Yes, yeah. So those days...
Young romantics.
Correct.
Yeah, that was good old times. Wu, now, any youngsters listening, thinking of getting into our business, what advice would you give them?
Well, it's a glamorous business.
Whoa, now there's a word that hasn't been used for a long time with cargo.
Yeah.
Cargo is a glamorous business.
It is, if you look at it, but I think you have to be very practical and you have to be very resilient in what you do. Challenges along the way the industry moves and changes. So for the young people, I think if they want to come into this business, it's something they could do, but they have to look at the entire logistics supply chain. You can't be looking at certain segments of the business, and try to transform it using technology. And that's the industry is in need for that.
Yeah. No, it is. Warehousing. What's your balance between labour and we're talking about technology or automation?
Right now in our part of the world, labour is still relatively affordable.
Yeah.
So a lot of the warehouses are still. We started off very manual. We have put in racks. We've put in systems now.
Yeah.
We are starting to go into facial recognition for security.
Yeah,
We've gone on to CCTVs with IPHD, so I can whip up my phone now in Madrid and see what's happening in Kuala Lumpur.
Yep.
And I think in terms of manpower, we want to reduce it. We need to reduce it because as we move along, manpower resources are becoming more critical and acute. And I think, we are still in that process of going through how much can we get out of a square foot of space. And that's the real measurement that we need to look at.
And you're talking about youngsters and innovation and technology. What are you considering now?
Well, I think cargo is typical cargo terminal. What we should do is get it out as soon as possible. It shouldn't stay too long. But how do we store it? How do we retrieve it? We either use robots, we use retrieval systems, and then tracking. It hasn't quite worked out that well yet. You still have this. Can you imagine someone scanning 50 boxes of a shipment related to one airway bill? Yeah, it's not going to happen.
But it happens on e-commerce, so why not?
Well, e-commerce are individual packages, and as they process through the sorting, they do that. But when it's cargo, it's a big build-up pallet. People won't scan every box, but they should.
But they should, or they should have, they should have a
conveyor belt with a gantry,
or an overriding scan that picks multiple labels up.
Correct. So we are looking at things that even contours of pallets. How do we do it? How do we build up? How do we optimize space? So those are technologies that we need to put in.
And do you think, what sort of time period before we've got a little bit more intelligence and automation balanced?
I'm talking about 5 years.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So, please God, Wu, at some location in 5 years' time, we'll have to hook up and see exactly what was done.
Yeah, that would be interesting to see whether it comes true.
Yeah. Now, looking back, we've spoken about possible mistakes from learning from, and what would you do differently? Memories. Okay, it's always good to have memories. What are the most positive memories that you've had looking back on your career?
Well, I started as an engineer. I made the transition. I never thought I could do it. So I made the transition from an engineer, a guy that looks at logics, and now go into commercial and sales where you have to have a 1 + 1 = 3, not 2. Yeah. And then we look at how to manage decisions, make decisions. And I think, but really one of my strongest memories, and this is one story I would tell my grandchildren over a fireplace, if I have a fireplace later, is that I was on this flight, flying the Prime Minister into China. And we shut the aircraft down. And we did some replenishment of oil. There are 2 empty cans that if we had to be conscious, we will have to open back the doors and get back into the aircraft and put the oil cans back into the aircraft. Or we could leave it on the ramp. So we decided to do the right thing and to open the doors and to put the cans back in. And as I put the cans back in, I heard a sound, a whirring sound, And I asked the electrical engineer, what the hell is that? And then we found out that it was actually because one of the switches in the cockpit was left in an on position, which is the refueling panel switch in the cockpit. This, especially on the DC-10, is a special feature. You can refuel from the cockpit. Yeah. That switch was left on. It was running the static inverter and draining the battery. Now, if we had not got back in, the battery would have drained. And tomorrow when the Prime Minister wanted to fly, we couldn't start the aircraft.
That would have been embarrassing, huh?
And this was at an outstation in Urumqi, in Xinjiang province in China. They had no ground power that could fit an Western aircraft. They have never seen a DC-10 before. And my belief then was that, and it's something I carry on through my life, is that whatever you do, you have to do it right through the heart. And if you do that, the guy above will look after you. And I guess he guided me that day.
No, most definitely, huh?
Yeah.
But it goes to show as well. I mean, and you put it very good, from the heart, and the boss upstairs looking after you. But if you do the right thing, and you know it's the right thing, then you must always do it.
Yes.
Never take a shortcut. Don't miss it. Don't bypass it.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to report it.
Exactly. And Chinese believe in karma. It'll come back to you.
Yeah. What goes round comes round.
Yeah.
Exactly. And but this fear, or this the reporting, so like SMS just culture and everything, it is so important. But you also come into touch, when you've been in this industry for a long time, with different cultures, different companies, different leaders, and I always reference the 4Fs principle. And if you're in any of the areas that are affected by the 4Fs, you're in trouble, and you've got to be very, very on top of your game, which is fear, familiarity, favour, and flexibility. And if they are predominant in those areas, there's always something and you've got to be so focused.
Yes.
And the fear is probably the worst one, because if people are frightened to report because their boss or their supervisor thinks it's going to make them look worse, it's totally wrong.
It's cultural thing, I think, in some areas of the world. Face value, if you like to use the word. Yeah. But I always encourage my people, never fear making mistakes. Yeah. Making mistakes is just a way of learning.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's to encourage them to report.
Yeah, no, 100%. Now, let me ask you, holidays, vacations, when you get the chance and you go away, and whether it's with the entire family or you and your wife, where do you like to go?
Mostly places with a lot of nature. Yeah. And we never do any, tour group thingy. We always go on our own. Yeah. And we just grab a car, hire a car, drive out. So I've always enjoyed Australia, because my children are there, obviously, and the US. I also enjoy the US. Yeah.
Whereabouts in the US? What's your state of choice?
Well, it so happened we went through the Grand Canyon a couple of times.
That's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, the beauty, the quietness, and when you sit in the Grand Canyon and you look up and think that the thousands of years that have passed, and you're just one creature in maybe 70, 80 years. What significance can you make to the world? So that brings you back to, what can we contribute in our lifetime to the world?
Yeah. Did you do the glass floor?
No, I'm a coward, Yeah? No, I didn't quite do that part.
But when you're up the top, the thing that really surprised me, and I was so amazed, when you come out of that, you can walk right up to the edges.
Exactly.
And there's no barriers.
No barriers.
There's no safety.
In US, where
exactly.
safety is prime.
Everything. And I just thought, my God.
And, you could just walk over the edge and just drop it off.
Oh, my God, what a drop.
Yeah.
But you see so many people pushing themselves to the edge, doing selfies and getting pictures.
Exactly.
I was so surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what's the name of the trees? There's so much. Joshua Tree.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
There's on some of the roads, you see it's such a beautiful scenery. Yeah.
And I caught a cactus barb in my foot as well. So I had to pull it out. It was a bit of a pain, but anyway.
Whoa. How did you manage to do that? Just walking?
Well, because I took the helicopter tour that lands in the middle of the gorge.
Yeah.
And you get out and you can walk around, and I got myself pricked on the cactus.
Well, what an end, eh? The elephant man gets pricked by a cactus. Incredible. Right, we're coming to the end of it now. Okay, and thank you so much for giving us such an amount of your valuable time. Is there any question you'd like to ask or anything?
No, I think I love to, share as much as I can to the rest. And if there's any way I can help to share this through whatever means, media.
Yeah, no, that will definitely happen, Wu. And like I said, the most important thing is to let people see a little bit of our business and the people that are in it, so that they'll be attracted to come into it themselves, and then they'll be doing things like this in the future, and future leaders and people who inspire others, and it's important now that we start to attract fresh blood and a different way of thinking. So that's really good. Now your book, okay? I've decided that it should be called Elephant Man: Born, Bred, and Polluted.
Oh, what a good title! I will be very happy.
So
to
we'll put that down there, and look forward to talking to you some more, and especially with regards to how e-commerce develops. And what we're going to do is we're going to have different streams now of specialist subjects after we've got to know so many people. So we'll have probably something on safety, security, e-commerce, and then we'll be inviting people who've got specialist knowledge to compare their experiences and what they think should and shouldn't happen. So I'm sure we'll be speaking again, Wu.
That's fantastic.
Great to meet you. Look forward to seeing you.
Thank you so much.
And I'll always remember Elephant Man.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Now, just before we do go off, if anybody wanted to get in touch with you, how should they? So I'm sure you've got a company website. You don't need to give your personal email, but if they wanted to get you, how would they do so?
Well, they can go onto the Pos Aviation website. Just do Pos Aviation, and then you get the website.
Okay. Very, very good. And thank you again. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.